The Solipsi Rai claim says the Greys come from Cygnus, but the famous Grey origin story points to Zeta Reticuli. That is the contradiction at the center of this story. One claim gives us a named race, a home region, and a finished answer. The other gives us a messy trail of testimony, hypnosis, magazine coverage, amateur star matching, and decades of argument. So, is this a hidden race history, or a later myth welded onto one of UFO culture's most influential cases? I understand why the Solipsi Rai version is tempting. It turns a confusing folklore tradition into something clean. It gives the Greys a name. It gives them a place. And it gives believers the feeling that the mystery has already been solved. That feeling matters, because origin stories do emotional work. They turn fear into a file. They make the unknown feel organized. I used to think the Grey story probably had one central origin too, but when I followed the dates, the trail did not start with Solipsi Rai. It started with Betty and Barney Hill. This is No Aliens, following the evidence instead of the legend. And the evidence begins with a case that changed UFO culture forever. On September 19th and 20th, 1961, Betty and Barney Hill reported a UFO encounter while driving through New Hampshire. They were returning from a trip to Canada when the story begins. The later account included missing time, strange figures, medical-like examination imagery, and a remembered star map. Those details became building blocks for later abduction folklore. The case later became famous through interviews, media coverage, and the 1966 book, The Interrupted Journey. By June 27, 1966, Look magazine had photographed the Hills for a UFO feature. That matters because archives give us something folklore rarely gives. They give us a paper trail. A paper trail does not make the abduction true. It only tells us when a claim entered public record. That distinction is the first rule of this episode. But here is the crack in the simple story. The public historical trail for the modern Grey archetype runs through the Hills, not through any verified record of a Solipsi Rai civilization. That does not prove the Hill account happened as described. It means the Hill case is documented as culture, media, and testimony. The Solipsi Rai claim is different. No public official, archival, or scientific source verifies Solipsi Rai as a real extraterrestrial race. There is no recognized astronomical catalog entry for a civilization called Solipsi Rai. There is no peer-reviewed detection of technology from that name. There is no public censor record tying Cygnus to Grey visitors. So the question changes. It is not which alien origin sounds cooler. It is which claim survives contact with records, astronomy, and data. The Zeta Reticuli story begins with Betty Hill's alleged star map. According to the tradition, Hill described seeing a map aboard the craft. Years later, Marjorie Fish tried to match that pattern to real nearby stars. Fish was not using magic. She was trying to build a three-dimensional model from nearby stellar positions. The catalog problem was already difficult. Nearby star destinations improved over time as parallax measurements became more precise. So, a pattern that looked convincing in one catalog could weaken when the data changed. That matters because a flat star map can deceive the eye. Stars that look close together from Earth may sit far apart in actual space. Her interpretation placed the origin near Zeta Reticuli. Zeta Reticuli is a real binary star system in the southern constellation Reticulum. It is close enough to sound plausible in science fiction terms. Both stars are sun-like enough to make the idea feel less absurd at first glance. But plausibility is only the doorway. To become evidence, the claim would need an independent signal, artifact, repeatable observation, or physical trace. And that plausibility gave the story power. Then, in December 1974, Astronomy magazine published debate around that interpretation. This is the moment Zeta Reticuli became attached to the gray origin tradition. But attachment is not confirmation. The map was not an astronomical detection. It was not a government disclosure. It was an interpretation of a remembered image from a disputed abduction claim. The hypnosis part matters too. Memory is not a recording device. It reconstructs, edits, and sometimes absorbs later expectations. By the time a memory becomes a published story, it has passed through many hands. Each retelling can preserve a detail, sharpen a detail, or quietly add a frame around it. That does not mean the Hills lied. It means a specific star system claim carries many fragile steps. That chain matters. Every link adds uncertainty. And when uncertainty grows, responsible investigation slows down. Now, compare that with Cygnus. Cygnus is not just a mythic swan in the sky. It is scientifically important because NASA's Kepler mission stared at a Cygnus-Lyra field after launching on March 7, 2009. Kepler did not scan the whole galaxy. It watched one crowded patch of sky with extraordinary patience. That patch contained more than 100,000 target stars during the primary mission. The mission's genius was repetition. Instead of asking whether one strange light was alien, Kepler asked whether a star dimmed on schedule. That patience was the instrument. Kepler watched stars for tiny dips in brightness. That method is called transit detection. A single dip is not enough. Astronomers look for repeating patterns that match an orbit. They also check whether the signal could come from another star, an instrument artifact, or a false positive. If the dip is deep, the planet may be large. If the dip repeats quickly, the planet likely orbits close to its star. Those are modest conclusions, but they are testable. It does not find aliens. It finds planets. As of the NASA Exoplanet Archive page consulted for this episode, the archive listed 6,298 confirmed exoplanets. Of those, 4,653 were discovered by transit. Another 1,186 were found by radial velocity. Radial velocity measures the small wobble a planet causes in its star. When a star moves toward us, its light shifts slightly blue. When it moves away, those lines shift slightly red. That back and forth can reveal an unseen planet tugging on the star. This is where astronomy becomes powerful. It can test for planets. It can estimate size, orbit, and sometimes atmospheric clues. But each measurement answers a narrow question. A planet detection does not identify a species. An atmosphere signal would not automatically mean visitors. Even a biosignature would require careful testing against non-living explanations. Future observatories, including concepts like the Habitable Worlds Observatory, aim to push that search toward Earth-like worlds. The goal is to characterize worlds, not confirm internet race catalogs. But even this extraordinary science does not identify the Solipsi Rai. It does not confirm grays from Cygnus, and it does not rescue the Zeta Reticuli star map from its witness testimony problem. That is the uncomfortable middle of this story. Cygnus gives us real astronomy, but not gray identity. Zeta Reticuli gives us influential folklore, but not confirmed origin. The evidence points to two different kinds of claims, and confusing them is how legends start to look like facts. So, what can modern UAP science actually say? NASA's UAP study emphasized better data collection, clearer standards, and scientific transparency. That sounds less exciting than a named alien race, but it is exactly how real science protects itself from wishful thinking. ARROW also focuses on resolving anomalies through evidence, not declaring alien origins from stories. A blurry object can be real and still be unidentified. Unidentified does not mean extraterrestrial. Neither reports conclusive evidence that UAP are extraterrestrial. That does not make every witness dishonest. It means extraordinary origin claims need extraordinary evidence. A race name would need more than repetition. A home star would need more than a coordinate that sounds scientific. A civilization claim would need records that can be checked outside the belief system. And that is where the Solipsi Rai claim breaks. Everything points to one conclusion. The Greys do not have a confirmed public origin in Cygnus, and they do not have a confirmed public origin in Zeta Reticuli. What they have is a folklore genealogy. The real story is not that one star system wins. The real story is that alien culture often turns interpretations into ancestry. That is more interesting than a simple answer, because it shows how a modern myth learns to dress itself in the language of science. Cygnus sounds scientific because Kepler searched there. Zeta Reticuli sounds scientific because it is a real nearby star system. But scientific vocabulary is not the same thing as scientific proof. That is the aha. The myth did not defeat the evidence. It borrowed its clothing. This changes how we should read gray alien lore. The question is not whether Cygnus has planets. It does. The question is whether any of those planets connect to the Solipsi Rai claim. Right now, publicly, they do not. The question is not whether Betty and Barney Hill mattered. They did. The question is whether the Hill star map tradition proves Zeta Reticuli as an alien home. Right now, it does not. This is the discipline the subject demands. Keep the claim separate from the evidence. If a claim names a race, ask where the name first appears. If it names a star, ask what instrument connected the claim to that star. If it uses real astronomy, ask whether the astronomy proves the identity or only decorates it. This gray origin fight reminds us that mystery grows fastest in the space between a document and a desire. But the next layer is stranger. Once the Greys became an image, people began reading that image back into older sightings. I'm here to help you know what evidence can actually carry. Which origin claim should carry more weight? The ARB's Cygnus story or the Hill star map tradition tied to Zeta Reticuli? See you in the next archive.